You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Imagine That. I am Louis, one of your hosts. Glad to be back. Sorry for the last episode. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but we are here today, joined by Amanda from Where in the Park. Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. So glad to have you back. We missed you last time, but yeah, I'm doing awesome.
Awesome.
Looking forward to today's show.
Yeah, and to round up the team tonight, we are a little bit lighter tonight. Kevin, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well over here too. Yeah, we're excited to have you back. I know you were missing because you had that big event over the last weekend at the Rogue Comic Con in Medford, Oregon. For everyone who went out there to see them, we weren't able to make it, so we're excited that you're back, that you survived the trip.
I am stoked I survived the trip. I am a little bit.
It was a long drive for you.
It was a long drive, but also, man, it was a great weekend. Those that got a chance to join us, we appreciate you. Those that have not got a chance to make it out there, join us on the Wednesday live show. We will be recapping the entire trip, and we have two special guests on that show. We have Ears, who was there helping. What do you call the tour people that help you with all your like
a roadie,
like a roadie stagehand? Yeah, he was there holding it down. And Tyler, one of our Patreons, he showed up and held down the booth. So Ears and Tyler will be on this Wednesday talking and recapping Rogue Comic-Con. We do not have Sam tonight. Rogue Comic-Con was quite an event, and she had a long way to travel. So she is a little bit under the weather tonight, but she may be there Wednesday to help recap as well. But yeah, if you ever get a chance, tune in Wednesday, 7:30 live, Facebook page, YouTube page. If not, wherever you're hearing this podcast, it will be there the day after. So, but yeah, a big thank you to our sponsors. We're in the Park, Getaway Today, We're in the Park, and Sunken City Designs, all threw in some donations and services to help out the Rogue City Comic Con, promote it. So we are excited and thankful for all our sponsors. And being a sponsor, I'm curious, how does being on the show, and this might be a minor Imagine That kind of question, being a sponsor and being a host, how do you guys juggle the hats? Is it hard? Is it easy? Does it come naturally? I never really asked that question, and I know it's always hard for us to kind of pivot from, Amanda from Where in the Park and Kevin from Where in the Park, and they are our sponsors. So just curious, is there a change of hats going from host to sponsor?
Well, I know for me, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Kevin, but for me, I'm really good at juggling and wearing a lot of hats that I think we're actually qualified to be part of Cirque du Soleil now. So,
or at least that guy on Pirates of the Caribbean. So yeah, we're all over the place all the time. So no, it's really easy to switch from one to the other, and it's just hit and record and boom, we're there. We're creating games for theme parks, so our head's already in theme parks, so it's kind of, we're in the same wheelhouse over here. I never really left the world of thinking about theme parks, so yeah.
I think that's what makes you guys solid for this show with us. It's that never taking off that thinking cap. That's cool, but it could be better. Man, all right, yeah.
Always.
It's just a question that popped in my head when I was giving the spiel about our sponsors, and I was like, wait a minute, I've never really thought about that. Do we change hats? So want to get your guys' views and opinions about that.
But what about you?
Oh man, I feel like my hats are always changing, not just on the sponsor side, but just on the thought process. I'll be on one thing and switch over so immediately. So I don't think it comes naturally. It's mildly abusive to myself, if I'm being honest. It's oh no, I can't agree with that because that's not who I am. So for me, it doesn't come easy, it doesn't come natural, but I find it very fun and entertaining. Time to switch up. Let's have some fun with this.
As long as you're having a good time.
Oh, always. I mean, it's not worth having a bad time in any situation. I mean, except reservations, but that's not this show. So, but speaking of thinking and being all over the place and thinking of all different ways to adapt things, our Imagineer tonight to talk about Mr. John Hench. Overall thoughts of John Hench. Kevin, from the outside looking in, what are your overall thoughts of John Hench?
He was obviously one of the originals, and we can thank him for a lot of what we see in the parks. He did a lot of great concept art for many of the different lands of the Disney parks. He designed Cinderella Castle, the Magic Kingdom, and Tokyo Disneyland because it's the same castle. But obviously his viewpoint on how things should look and how things should go together helped to develop the parks the way that they are.
I don't disagree at all. Amanda, your thoughts on John Hench?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if anyone hasn't read Designing Disney by John Hench, go pick it up. Go pick it up. There's so much that you can learn from all the Imagineers, but especially John Hench, that can apply to everyday life. That, because everywhere around us there's color, right? Everywhere around us there's some form of forced perspective or something. Look at nature. Go to a national park, right? And you are going to see forced perspective in nature. You're going to see different color palettes in nature. And I think when you dive into how someone like John Hench saw the world and taught that to other people, and then you can apply that to your own life and what you're seeing, it brings things to a deeper level, a deeper appreciation of the world around you. So I think taking a moment to really study these Imagineers, and John Hench especially, just to deepen your own understanding of life around you. So for that, I thank him tremendously, because after learning more about him and going back to Disneyland afterward, I looked at Disneyland from a different lens. And once again, I never thought I was going to say that, because we've been to Disneyland looking at the details for a long time, and yet still I see something new because of the lens that John Hench has brought to my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's an even newer layer of respect. Definitely.
A newer layer of respect, absolutely.
Especially because forced perspective is such a very utilized tool in like the Disney handbook, but yet it's a tool that I think many guests, whether you're your first time visiting or your 100th time visiting, you don't realize how much forced perspective is going on in the park. And it's such a underappreciated piece of magic that Disney has that you don't realize that you're enjoying that. You don't realize what it is. I mean, I feel like one of my favorite forced perspective things in the parks is the sails above New Orleans Square. Mm-hmm. So that and you only see them from certain angles in the park, and it's I'm not going to give it away too much, but if you're on the sailing ship Columbia or the Mark Twain, or even the newly remodeled Treehouse, there are sails way above New Orleans. You got to try to find out where you can see them. They're not needed. Nobody sees those. But then you see that, and it gives you that vision of there's a harbor over there. Like, that's what's behind there. Little do you realize, no, behind that is the tram and downtown Disney. But you're up there, and it's just, especially on those clear blue skies, and you see those sails kind of hitting with the wind, it nails it. It's like, oh, that's there. And such a underappreciated piece of forced perspective. And that's a mild version of it, because it's giving you depth versus other forms of forced perspective. What are some of your guys' favorite utilized? You guys see a lot more theme parks than I do. So whether it's Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or any other Disney park, what are some of your favorite forced perspective areas or scenes in the parks?
before we get into that, I just want to point out that John Hench did work on New Orleans Square concepts. So I don't know if he worked on those sales or not, but just to tie it all together.
Yeah.
So yeah, Amanda, you look you were excited to answer this one. I'm still trying to debate on what my favorite is.
Well, I don't know if I have a favorite, but because there's so much at the parks, and I love that you brought up the sales, because it's true. They're not needed. Most people do not know that they're there. And one spot that I cannot wait until they're done is from the train station, because that one you can really see one of the sales, but it's under construction right now. So we'll wait to get back to that one. But it's so true. Your brain plays a trick on you of like, oh, there's ships back there. There's a harbor back there. But no, there's not. Spoiler, there's not. But another one that comes to mind, and I think we alluded to it last week or last Imagine That episode, but the American Adventure Building at Epcot. It is a really big building. It looks like it's only 2 stories when in fact inside it's 5 stories. But because there was no such thing as a 5-story building back in those days, on the outside, it's just a 2-story building. But when you walk up to it, you would have no idea that, okay, I'm walking into a 5-story building. But that's all because of forced perspective and just the amount of engineering and math that goes into creating a forced perspective element is insane. And how they do that through the use of scale, but also through the use of color. And it's just incredible. It's just incredible. So until I think of another example, besides castles, of course, I think I'll go with the American Adventure Building at Epcot.
All right, I think I have mine now. I'm going to go with the Cadillac Range over at Cars Land.
Ooh.
Except for when they have the crow sitting at the very top of it, kind of killing the illusion. I think I pointed out one last week and said, hey, look at that huge vulture over there, because it looks so far away and it looks like it's so tall when you're just sitting there, especially if you're eating over at Flo's V8 Cafe, just looking out at the vista. It's like, this is huge. You're like, it looks like you're just in this enormous place. But then, like, if you're at other like spots where you're further back, you can actually see the convention center behind the facade, where it can give it away, but not really when you're in the land, which is good.
And you bring that up, but for the listeners, I just went on Google to find out, like, to give a good definition, because you can give a definition of what you think forced perspective is. I went on Google to find out, for viewers that are listening that don't know what forced perspective is, this is the answer I got. It says forced perspective is an optical illusion technique that makes objects appear larger, smaller, closer, or farther away than they actually are. It works by manipulating human visual perception through the relationship between scaled objects and the camera or viewer's position. And those are really good tools that Disney uses, but at the same time, like Kevin was just sharing, and I won't knock it too much, but when you don't utilize the good tools you have, you run into that. One good forced perspective that really is commonly overlooked is the berm around Disneyland. You have that escapism. You forget where you're at. You walk in through those tunnels, and there is no, more recently, due to any given situation, you're seeing a lot more vehicles in the air, helicopters, planes, stuff like that. Life happens. Obviously that's a thing. But on a day where you don't see that, you get lost in that. But when you don't utilize, you don't see how important this tool is until you see, like, say, Radiator Springs, where far enough back, it's like, hey, that's there, but I can see right behind it. There's also, if I'm not mistaken, the tree in Adventureland, that when you're in New Orleans Square, you can't see the Matterhorn. It doesn't, you can, but you can't. I want to say it's New Orleans Square, but you look across the rivers and there's a tree. And if I'm not mistaken, I forgot why I read it. That tree is there because it hides Matterhorn Mountain. Like, you can't really see it unless you're, really trying to look for it. but it's not there. Or another cool trick that I like is go away green, and I forget
there's a no CM gray and a go away green, I think. We were having this debate last time, so it makes the names up. Yeah, and so there's colors that don't necessarily make it disappear, but in a quick glimpse, I mean, it's gone. You don't see it.
So yeah, and to that, I put in the chat when we were talking about it that because it popped up on my Instagram, somebody had posted a picture from the
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, thank you, Cosmic Rewind, and the lower half of the outside of Cosmic Rewind from the main road, the bottom half of that building is green, and the top of that building is blue. So it matches the sky and the trees down below. So if it's a blue sky day in Florida, that building does not exist. Mm-hmm. And that is crazy that they put in all of that thought just to put that there. It could just be a random building, but no, blended it in.
It can be a building smacked with a bunch of advertisements to get more info. And it's not a billboard. And a lot of these details are there, and it's stuff that we almost take for granted. Like, especially myself, when I say, Disney's not trying hard enough. Sometimes those are pure evidence. Like, hey, no, we really are thinking about everything. And it's. I'm not saying Disney's the only ones to do it, but I think Disney does it in a way where it's like, okay, we are going to utilize forced perspective, but we are going to sprinkle a decent amount of story on this, so that way it blends together. And so for me, forced perspective, I mean, John Hench, I don't know the exact words that were used. It's in the Imagineering story, but he had the 4 steps of detail. When you look, I want to say it's in episode 1, and he's talking about like the distance. When you get closer, you see the shades of paint. When you grab that door knocker, you feel it. You feel the density. You feel the cold in it. You can move it. And I don't know the exact words, but I should have watched the Imagineering story for like the 200th time to reiterate that. But he shares the 4 steps of detail and why you should have that. But I think detail and forced perspective, I think, kind of go hand in hand. You look at New Orleans Square in Disneyland. Every top second story in New Orleans Square is slightly shorter to make it look bigger. Indiana Jones, the car wash tunnel. I mean, you're going forward, but you feel like you're going backwards. Like how they do that and why they do that is such a trip. So I wish next time on the next recording, I will start with that and share that. But it's if you watch the Imagineering story, I want to say it's episode 1 where John Hench is talking about it, why it is, what it is, and why we do this. It's along the same part where us as the viewers, we are the viewers. We are the ones watching the story. So, but forced perspective, I think, is a really beautiful tool that I think Disney does really well. And speaking of Mr. Hench and understanding forced perspective, here's a quote that came up from the D23 Legends bio. It said, Walt always said, you get down to Disneyland at least twice a month and you walk in the front entrance. Don't walk to the back. Eat with the people. Watch how they react to your work and what you've done there. This made an enormous difference in how he approached work. So John Hench mentioned that when it doesn't give a date, but I believe this is part of the discussion when he was a legend. So therefore, and it goes back to, hey, walk in the lines, understand what the people are thinking, feeling, and why. And forced perspective, I think, is one of those tools in the toolbox you want to pay attention to. Do they get lost and immersed in the story?
Yeah, that's what you were describing. It sounded kind of like the cornerstone of the pyramid, the Imagineering pyramid that we've been going over with the long, medium, and close shots.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand with that. I believe that's actually, it wouldn't even go hand in hand. I think that is it, just using a few different words and probably giving it a little bit more formal touch. Absolutely. Well, let's hear from one of our sponsors real quick, and then we will come back in.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Where in the Park Seek and Find Image Scavenger Hunt games will have you exploring theme parks like never before. But this is not like your childhood scavenger hunts. There are no word-based lists of items to find or a binder of riddles, trivia, math, or counting. Our games contain cards with images of details that can be found throughout the park just by walking around. You can play on your own schedule, so you don't have to worry about long lines, height requirements, or health concerns. Need help finding an image? We've got you covered, with hints and answers on each card so you're never left wondering where in the park the image can be found. Use the Scan Before Playing card to reveal an alternate image if one of the cards in your pack is currently hidden or removed from the park. Order today to get game packs for your next visits to the Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World theme parks. But the fun doesn't stop there. We also have games for Universal Studios in Hollywood and Florida, Knott's Berry Farm, Six Flags, SeaWorld, and more. Ready to experience your favorite theme parks in a whole new way? Go to www.whereinthepark.com/Walt'sAPT podcasts to get 10% off your order. A portion of the sale will also go to support the Walt's Apartment podcast. Want $10 off your order instead? Visit patreon.com/Walt'sAPT podcast to become a lamplighter. With so much more to discover, the only question is, do you know where in the park?
I've heard of them, yes.
I love how Where in the Park has evolved into, especially in our chats. Where in the state? Where in the town? I love how where in the is, and then ... just has become a on the call game. Whatever we may be doing, like it's
taking
really
over. It's what we do.
Yeah. Whenever we meet with people too, we're always like, send a picture of where you are. Let's try and figure this out. Like, don't tell us where you are. We'll find you based off of a picture you send.
We prefer if you're in a theme park, though. I'm not gonna lie.
That's true. I can't find you if you're somewhere not in a theme park.
Yeah, photos of San Francisco somewhere. I don't know what they were sending me this weekend.
Yeah, there was some photos that I don't think that any. It was just more of, here it is. I mean, what's worse though is when you send a photo of where in the park and then you find out that you can't get into the park. But that's not here nor there. So I mean,
that's a different conversation. Yeah. Yeah,
it's a whole different channel. But different attributes into where in the park also kind of going into different attributes into forced perspective. What are some key things to make forced perspective work the way it works? Because you can't just do it. You can't just say, hey, we'll make that smaller and that bigger and they'll get it. What are some key things that allow forced perspective to do its job? Because it's not a tool you can just go buy at Harbor Freight and say, let's use this forced perspective tool. Let's just make it happen. No, there are things that make that magic work. And I'm curious, what are some things you guys think help make forced perspective work?
Well, I think that math, engineering, a lot of paint. No, the thing for me is that forced perspective has to enhance a story of some kind. So, or it has to have a purpose. Like Main Street is a great example of that, right? Not only do you have forced perspective with each building itself, vertically, but also there's forced perspective going down the street. So it funnels into like looking at the castle. It looks like the buildings are going towards the castle in a narrowing fashion. Looking down Main Street, looking the opposite direction towards the train station, it looks the opposite way. That's done intentionally, right? Or maybe not. I wasn't there, but I
claimed afterward that it was intentional.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
I found it.
But there's some things that I think could be buttoned up a little bit to make the forced perspective really pop. And the example that always comes to mind is Grizzly River Rapids at California Adventure, because the trees, when they were planted, were really small at the top. And now those trees have grown and you can't see the mountain unless you're seeing it from specific angles. So I think with that, forced perspective doesn't work as well because I feel for those who have to go and trim the trees back as often as they need to make that forced perspective continue to happen. But a lot of times the main bear sculpture in the mountain is lost because of the trees.
Yeah, I've heard that there is no trimming those trees. You would have to actually replace those trees. So it's kind of an issue from the beginning that they knew was going to happen, but they didn't do anything to mitigate it. So that's why you have the drowning bear peak over at California Adventure.
But from the opposite perspective of Storybook Land canal boats, where everything is really small. So you have to keep the plants at a certain size, really, really, really small. But the patchwork quilt also has the forced perspective as well. Because you're seeing it multiple times and at different angles, it has a different appearance. You're also seeing it up high on Casey Junior Circus train, so you're seeing it from two different levels. And how does forced perspective play into both of those attractions? So, did I answer your question? I feel like I just spoke in a circle.
No, absolutely. Not only did you answer the question, but you kind of gave some points where, hey, they're also where forced perspective doesn't work. I think Storybook Canal, it's an attraction that I think mildly still works, but the forced perspective, it's missed. And I think it's not that it's missed, it hasn't aged well. Same with Grizzly River Run. There are some things where forced perspective, you might just be forcing it a little too much. One of my newest ones is, I've seen it previously, but I've seen it again, is the Pixar parade. I don't think Mr. Fredrickson's house translates the way they want it to translate. You would have been better just taking that off. I don't think that sells the way it does. So there are some times that you can put too much perspective on it where it's like, now you just lost it.
Yeah. And going back to Storybook Land, before we get too far off of it, the Cinderella Castle that they have there is huge compared to all of the other houses that are around, but the pumpkin carriage loses me because it seems like the pumpkin carriage is massive, where it's super high up from where you are on the boat, but I think it should be smaller. So at that point, I get really lost in the forced perspective.
Well, it's supposed to be a really big pumpkin that was big enough to turn into a carriage, right?
Yeah, but from where it is on the hill, it still seems too high, or it's too big because it's so high up on the hill. For me, I get lost.
Moving past that attraction, I have all my notes here for John Hench that he also is credited with working on that Snow White Grotto, which is also a great example of forced perspective.
That is true.
So I just want to make sure I said that before I forgot. I know we talked about it in the last episode, so I don't want to go over it again, but yeah.
So I am now looking at this Storybook Canal pumpkin because now it's I'll be honest, I've never realized that there was a pumpkin there. I enjoy Storybook Canal, I really do. Not to go down that rabbit hole, I really do. But I think it's a ride that can be revamped with the same blueprint and changed up. I think it could be a cool water dark ride with the same scenery, but it's an armchair project for another one. I have a soft spot for it, but I think it hasn't aged well. But now, next time I ride it, I want to see this pumpkin because it's there's a few things in that ride that I'm like, I didn't translate as well as I thought it was going to be.
I like it. I just feel like it needs more kinetics, though, because there's not a lot moving around in that ride.
Yeah, 100%. I love the if you were to give me a blue book on it, like just the details of what it's about, I'm digging it. Do I think it translates well of what it is now? No. I think there's so much room for more, especially with Casey Jr.'s wrapping around it. You can make a really cool intertwining attraction.
Completely agree.
But getting into kinetics, we got a project that is pretty fun and I'm excited about. we are going to be talking about kinetics in certain. We are doing lands, correct? If I was not here last time, so Amanda, if you want to take the reins and give our listeners the blueprint of what's about to happen for this armchair activity, and then we will hear from our sponsor and we'll get into our activity.
Yes. So this week for our Armchair Imagineering project, we are talking about kinetics or the movement around the park. And we are tasked with plussing some lands to add to the kinetics that are either already there or maybe spicing some stuff up. So you can keep the same footprint, but you have to keep the same footprint, but you can retheme the area. You can retheme some attractions or some eateries to enhance the kinetics that may already be there, or maybe there's some lacking. We'll see. We'll get into it. But Louis has Toontown.
Let's go. I'm so grateful I got that one.
Yes. Kevin has Echo Lake.
It's a redemption from Golden Zephyr.
Yes.
Yeah, I took on the bullet for this one with Echo Lake, so we'll see what I can do with it.
All right.
And I have Avengers Campus. So.
Oh, in DCA?
Yep.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm not a fan of Avenger Hallway, so I cannot wait to hear that one.
That's exactly why I wanted it, because it is indeed a hallway, and I have lots of ideas. So let's hear from our sponsor, and we will dive into the kinetics.
Absolutely.
Well, hello, and welcome to Let's Get to Know Our Sponsor. Getaway Today has been helping Disney vacation dreams come true since 1990. Whether you choose to visit the happiest place on earth or travel to Orlando and beyond, they want to help you. Need to know the best hotel in the area? What theme park tickets should you buy? Have a last-minute change? No worries. Their travel experts are always here to help. Want to book a cruise and don't know where to start? Hey, they can help with that too. They will help you find the perfect cruise for your vacation, whether it is your first time or you're a well-seasoned cruiser. When you book your cruise with one of the Getaway Today's experts, you will have a dedicated agent to help you every step of the way. They take care of the details so you can have the most fun. Getaway Today has layaway, peace of mind travel, allowing you to cancel or make changes up to 72 hours in advance. You will always have the most up-to-date vacation information, both pre-arrival and upon your welcome. Getaway Today will guarantee the best prices with no hidden fees. And every time you book through Getaway Today, they will donate a portion back to a charitable organization in your area. And so far, over $4.5 million has been donated. So click the link in our show notes to start your Disney vacation planning for more information and the best deals. Tell them Walt's Apartment sent you. And until next time, enjoy the view from Walt's Apartment.
We appreciate Getaway Today. They gave away two good giveaways, $250 travel credits to utilize, and we had two winners up in Medford, Oregon win those. So we are excited to see where their journeys go, but we appreciate all the support that Getaway Today has shown us. So now into kinetics. Who wants to go first?
Why don't you go first?
Oh, all right. So this is a fun one. This is a real fun one for me because everyone knows Toontown's my favorite land for multiple reasons. So kinetics-wise, I had to go back to, and I forget the Imagineer that talks a lot on Toontown, but he's a gentleman with like the round glasses. He's on Imagineering Story. I can never remember his name. But he talks about how Toontown is Mickey's home. And so I was thinking about that when I was coming up with my ideas for kinetics. And for Disney, for Toontown, one, there's so many buildings that have very little interaction. And then there's some interactions that are very mild. And for one of them that they used to have that they don't have, and I know there's safety reasons, but the Jolly Trolley. I really wish that was still there. Even if it was a simple kind of like a merry-go-round, hey, they have that new park over there. It just does a little loop. Nothing crazy, but it's there. But it's not a trolley that you can ride, us as guests. But you have, like a little pal go-around where Mickey, Minnie, the gang, they're riding it. So it comes out of the trolley port. It does a quick loop around Toontown. You have them, you get your photo ops, and it's just them riding the cart. 2, I wish you had, just like they have on Buena Vista Street, I wish you had more folks of Toontown. I mean, allow more than just the Fab Five walk-arounds. I love that they're walking around. They don't do really character stops as much. Love that aspect of it. I think there needs to be a lot more kinetics of places that have like smokestacks. I think there needs to be a little more steam coming out, showing that it's a real working town. Goofy's house, it's the candy making one. I mean, I feel like you should smell candy when you walk by, see like steam or colorful steam at night for that. The Candy Factory, really showcasing that. I think another piece that we should do, all the characters' houses should replicate to an extent Mickey and Minnie's. Minnie's, you have a mild walkthrough to meet them. Mickey's, you have a really long one for obvious reasons. But I think all of the character houses should have you walk in and you're working your way through their house in some way, shape. Going back to Forced Perspectives, Donald's, you could walk through the boat, give that perspective that you're still in the boat. Obviously, you're not because it's too small. But that eliminates the character meet and greets out on the walkway to give room for other long-lost characters in Toontown. Toontown has been shown in Roger Rabbit, so therefore there is no clause like, say, Star Wars, where that doesn't go on the timeline. Or you could have many of the long-lost friends be in Toontown because it's Toontown. That's the Toon's home. So if all of a sudden you have the Jolly Trolley come out and you got, say, the cats from Robin Hood on there, like, hey, they're in town. That's why they're on the trolley. Like, I think it gives you a chance to really utilize a lot of characters in that area. Food-wise, I think the food should be seasonal. I think it would be really cool if, like, all of a sudden, it's Thanksgiving time and there's, like, I don't know, shepherd's pie in the Disney-style way or a turkey sandwich or something like that. Really allow it to be like a living town. Bring back the Buena Vista newspaper, but in a Toon style. Like if you could do pressed pennies, imagine having newspaper like vending machines where $1 and you get the latest Toontown Daily. Just little things like that. Allow it to be a living town. But also too, I think you got to rip a page out of Universal Studios playbook. That Mario Land, the kinetics all around you. There's so much opportunity for that to be happening. I love the new playlist of Toontown, but you could switch it up. I mean, come on, how hard is it to rotate songs? Or, heck, it's Toontown. Create a small little goofy music shop and allow, guests to go in there and make a fun, goofy jukebox where it's like, hey, they're pressing that song, they're playing that song, where you get to hear all the Disney melodies. The cool thing about Toontown is that's the cartoon's home. So you're not bound by anything. So for me, give the buildings some more life. That's one. Bring back the Jolly Trolley and allow that to be, you never know who's going to pop out on that. Obviously, they can't do every character because you have to have all legalities, but right now we're armchair Imagineering, so the sky is limitless. You have that come out every once in a while. You have it to where it's different friends. Another one, expand the houses. Allow the houses to be walkthroughs. Get a taste of what Goofy's house is. Goofy's house, as much as I love the candy making vibe, that's not Goofy. It's not him at all. Give us, it would have been cool to see, say, hey, we have his fishing stuff for Bigfoot. Cool. Goofy is trying to be the best dad ever. The candy making part, the story's mildly lost. Donald's nephews in the water, cool. But if a kid's going there all the time, why are they always underwater? Won't they eventually, stop breathing? I feel like that piece just gets lost for viewers. Like if you're for the one time I go to Disneyland every once in a while, cool. These kids that have, magic keys, great. Donald's nephews are still underwater. Like, are we concerned? I just feel
Lou, just to let you back on the rails, we're talking about just about kinetics.
Isn't that all kinetic still?
You're fixing the whole land, which I love.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
That'll be a future episode thing.
But yeah, so I just think there's a give the non-moving stuff some more life. But yeah, that's my kinetics.
I love.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin's like, I got to reel him back in. He's going down.
You're gonna fix everything in there, and I love it. But yeah.
Yeah. I love that you brought back the Jolly Trolley. That needs to come back right now, today. Oh, yeah. Let's make it happen. I love the idea of, like you said, just having it in that, that little grassy patch now, and that excitement. The doors open, and who is it? Who's coming out? Who's coming into town?
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited.
Finally get rid of the track, though.
They did.
Just been the grassy patch. It's just that little spot.
In the defense of that too, though, they're realizing that the flooring. I mean, we've already seen grass get turned into bricks. So I mean, bricks turned into track. It's possible.
I can go back.
And if I'm being honest, I think Walt's tree. Now I think about it, I forgot to mention that one. Walt's tree needs to be a fake tree. Give that some toon life. It's that Walt's Park, or I think that's what they call it now, or the tree, Walt's tree, I think it's called on the map.
Dreamin' Tree.
Oh, the Dreamin' Tree, yes. That doesn't translate into Toontown. That seems, but I mean, I think that could have been an animated tree that had a lot more kinetics going for it, especially at nighttime. That tree, if you put small fiber optics in it where it's all like rainbow and just really changing to show like, oh, it's dreaming, or every once in a while it shakes when it's having a thought, cool. But I'm going to leave it at that because I'll go through and rework all of Toontown.
Definitely.
I was just picturing like the trees from like the Silly Symphonies.
Yeah, the flowers and trees.
Definitely. Yeah, that would be so cute.
Or even along the lines of the tree that's in front of the tiki room, where like the lamps come down and they do something like that. That'd be so cool.
Talking about kinetics, that one hasn't moved for quite a while.
Yeah, that one, the tiki room.
No one got that land.
Yeah.
All right, we're not fixing the tiki room, guys.
We'll get there, though.
I would like it if they would one of these days. Yeah.
But yeah, Toontown, as it is right now, is still good, but there's a lot of room to really be better and allow you to really immerse yourself in the entire land.
Yes. All right, I'll go next just because mine is pretty weak. Like I said, I took the bullet on this one. I have Echo Lake over at Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World. For anyone who has never been, it's probably one of the most hodgepodge lands at a Disney park. I know, Lou, that you have not been.
So I have not. So I am looking it up at this moment to kind of help get a visualization.
Yeah,
and looking at it briefly, I'm so glad you're looking to add some fun to this.
Yeah, so I kind of want to go over like what is there before I try to do anything to it. I mean, full disclosure, or like looking at it, like, how about if we just knock it all down and rebuild something whole new, like from full cloth here? I actually found an old Jim Korkis, the late Jim Korkis interview that he did, where he was talking about how Disney actually had big plans to turn that entire area into a Tatooine-based Star Wars land. That was actually in the works for that. It was almost green lit as far as he knew. Before they pivoted and created what we know today as Galaxy's Edge. So anyway, so that land, it does exist still, because he thought it was going to be gone like within like a few years. That was back in 2015 when that interview came out. But it exists still, and it's an opening day land where back when the park first opened, the entrance, when you made it to like where the hub is at Disneyland, it was actually the face of Mickey Mouse. And the lake of Echo Lake was his right ear. So it was kind of an upside down face, if you can picture that. You can look up the old maps. It was actually like really drawn on there, clear for you to see on the maps. The funny thing is that on those original maps, Echo Lake, the lake there, wasn't considered part of the Echo Lake land. It was part of the Hollywood Boulevard land instead. I don't know how that all worked out. But in the lake, they have a Dockside Diner. It was originally named, where is it over here? Min and Bill's Dockside Diner. It was named after a 1930s MGM film because originally the park was called Disney MGM Studios, for anyone who doesn't know that. So that was kind of their one tie-in to MGM there. And now it's been renamed to just Dockside Diner, and it kind of doesn't really, I feel like it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the park anymore. Not that it ever really did, because I guess the movie didn't have a boat either, so I don't know. It was kind of a weird thing they threw into that spot just to have a little eatery. And then the other thing coming out of the water there is Gertie. Gertie is a huge dinosaur. It's an ice cream shop that's based off of Winsor McKay's Gertie the Dinosaur, which is one of the earliest uses of animation. It was kind of Walt's inspiration for animation, which is why they put it there, because it's great to have something that ties back to Walt and like his love for animation. But it doesn't have anything to do with Echo Park. That's another thing I wanted to point out, is that the area is called Echo Lake. That's the name of the land. They refer to that body of water in there as Echo Lake. But there is an Echo Lake in California that's up northeast of Sacramento, below Lake Tahoe. That's Echo Lake. There's no Echo Lake in Hollywood. Over there you have Echo Park Lake, which is what this is actually based on. So they should have called the land Echo Park, in my opinion. I know I've read that the original name for it was something else over here. It's like a Circle Lake, or Lakeside Circle was the original name for this land. They switched it over to Echo Lake, and I'm not sure who decided it, but you can look at the theming. I see Lou on the screen here, kind of trying to figure out what is where. As you walk through this land, if you're going there from Hollywood Boulevard, if you make the first left, you're going to be over by the Hollywood and Vine restaurant, which is kind of like an all-you-can-eat character meet and greet for whatever the Disney Kids stuff is called. And then past that, you're going to run into the 50s Primetime Cafe and the Tune-In Lounge, which are a lot of fun. I'm not sure, again, how it ties into the 1930s, 1920s field that you were just in Hollywood Boulevard. You go over here to Echo Lake, and now you have these two things that kind of seem very modern, but then in the past at the same time. As you keep walking past that, you're going to end up over at one of the first attractions, which is the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, which is a great show, a lot of fun. Not a lot of kinetics for any of these so far. The only thing that's had kinetics is the Primetime Cafe has a sign that spins. So that's going to be your big motion there. If you look to the right as you're walking in front of the Primetime 50s, the 50s Primetime Cafe, and you look at the Echo Lake, there is one fountain kind of shooting up and spraying out. The actual Echo Park Lake has a neat fountain that's put in for the 1984 Olympics that shoots three. It looks like kind of like a fire hose, so it's like three fire hoses just shooting up straight vertical. But they didn't recreate that here. We went with a different kind of fountain, and I'm not sure why. So as you continue, you actually have a restaurant over here. That is, I feel like it wasn't always in the spot, but maybe it was, and I don't know if it's just the park has changed so much over the last few years with Galaxy's Edge and things moving around. But they have I didn't write it down, but it's the Backstage Cafe or something. Backlot Cafe. I don't know.
Backlot Express.
Thank you. Backlot Food to Eat. So it feels like I know there's like paint cans back there. It looks like you're in the backlot, kind of like a prop area.
And there's a drinking fountain. There's a drinking fountain that's there that is a different color, but it's the same fountain that is in line at Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland.
Fun fact. We would know that. Again, for anyone listening for the first time, that ad about where in the park, that's us. We make games for parks. Anyway, Moving on.
And real quick before you jump back in, I really wish we had the visual of this podcast so that way you can see Lou's reaction to everything here. Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly you're looking at, but just the look of what is this?
So I've never, as much as a Disney fan, I've never decided to go on Google Maps and just like, let's go look right over this thing. And I really want to know who greenlit this. Like, it's just,
it's a hodgepodge. Yeah.
Well, talking about like forced perspective and like rules of Imagineering, this doesn't fit any of it. Like but that's not the topic for tonight. But I'm walking through virtually on this Echo Park, and you would have fooled me that we were at Disneyland or a Disney park. You would have fooled me.
Yes, definitely. I mean, obviously, it was quickly made during the Eisner era. It was an Eisner park, kind of like Disney California Adventure version 1. Of, hey, let's make something fast. They try to beat Universal to the punch to have a studios park. I mean, that's the rumor, allegedly. That's the reason why they built it so quickly. And then, like I said, this was an opening day section of the park. Moving past that restaurant, you do have Star Wars Star Tours. You have their version of Star Tours over there with a really great facade. I love the facade there where it looks like an Ewok village, and you have a big AT-AT or AT-AT, depending on who you are and how you want to say that out loud. One of those big walker guys that shoots. And that guy every once in a while does shoot some water at you. So you do have that kinetic. So I love that one. Because again, I am talking about kinetics. I'm also just trying to lay the land here for anyone who hasn't really paid attention, because it's an easy land to just walk right through and ignore completely.
Oh wow! So I just found a photo of the AT-AT, and that is
no, it's legit. I love that.
That is really cool.
Yeah. The thing is that back when they made that facade up there, like this whole concept for the park was that it's kind of like you are on a lot, right? So when you go in that line for Star Tours, if you look back, you'll see the backside of the Ewok village, and it'll just be like sheet metal and stuff. And that was supposed to be part of the story. It wasn't like they didn't make it in the round because they were cheap. It was not made in the round because they're showing you moving magic. So that's the reason why that exists the way it does, and that's the story that they went with, and they're sticking with it. Coming back through the land, I actually don't have the map up, so I'm going through my memory. But I believe the next thing you're going to see is the Mickey Shorts Theater that's featuring Vacation Fun. It's been the house of many other shows over the years, but for the last several, it's been just a Mickey Shorts Theater. So it's kind of the Paul Reddish shorts, where that style of Mickey Mouse is in there. I think when they first put it in, it was to get you ready for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, because that's the same Paul Reddish style Mickey Mouse. And it's still there. And the facade of that one is just a building. I mean, I don't know. I like in my memory of it, I thought it was just a soundstage, but it actually has a look to it. But I don't even know what they're trying to pinpoint there. But the point of me bringing it up is that there is nothing moving on that building. As you keep walking past that, there's also the Frozen Sing-Along, which used to be the American Idol show. It was a really fun show when it first opened, where you can like be on stage, and I think I was in the Gilligan's Island show back when I was a kid on that one. Once summer we went into town. So that was a lot of fun. But again, nothing really moves on that guy. Then you're back over to the Dockside Diner to your right, and that has some flags on top that move if it's windy. So I think that's all the connects I have. Shooting AT. There are a lot of trees over by Indiana Jones. So if it is a rainy, windy day, you're going to see trees moving. I know Amanda is very strict on that is not kinetics. I mean, it's something that's in the park. It's moving. I say it counts. I mean, if you're going to give it a lowest common denominator of motion, it's better than something that is completely rigid.
I think it depends on the trees. So, like the trees in Redwood Creek Challenge, sure. Yeah. Trees on Pirate's Lair, sure. Trees on Main Street, probably not. Like, I mean, I think it just depends.
Well, the trees over here, they are palm trees, and they do have it with pretty big palm fronds. That when it's windy out there, you see them move.
Trees are part of theming. Trees are not planted for kinetics, in my opinion. That's where I draw the line.
Too.
It should be part of theming. I don't think having trees be part of your kinetics and that's it is not okay.
I'm sure they could have chosen like just to like put a picture of a tree up that wouldn't have moved at all, and then it would have been theming without kinetics. So I mean, we'll have this argument forever. It's fine, everyone. We're married. We're allowed. So
the only thing we're arguing about. That's great.
The one other thing in this entire land that I found that moves is that over as you get past the Dockside Diner, there are some shops to your left. They're technically part of Hollywood Boulevard, but in between the little break between those, there is a traffic signal that does have like the arm that goes out saying stop. And then, yeah, so like that moves and makes a ding sound, you know, so it kind of makes the area come to life. So as far as my additions, now that we've gone over what it currently is, again, I don't have much for this other than tearing it down, putting a roof on it, making it into a Tron or a Wreck-It Ralph land or something fun like that with like kinetics everywhere. I would say the Gertie dinosaur definitely needs to be updated to actually move. I don't know how you add something that is put there because it is what inspired animation, and no one thought, hey, we should animate this building. The design has it where looks like he's chewing something in his mouth because it's supposed to be inspired by the dinosaurs over on the dinosaur diorama on the train. Because that guy's like, I guess Gertie never actually chewed anything like that in his animation, but it was like, hey, you know what? Disney, like Walt liked the way this looks, so we're gonna have our dinosaur do this too. So get that jaw moving a little bit, have it where his eyes actually blink. That'd be nice. If you can move like the neck up and down or a little bit, even better. You know, I know I've seen Universal try to do that and fail, so I'm not sure how hard that is. If anyone remembers the Jurassic Park ride, back when they used to have those guys. But yeah, so I do like the thought stealing Lou's red trolley from Toontown. I think we could do a red trolley kind of like we have at California Adventure that can loop from the Tower of Terror through Echo Lake and back. It would solve the problem of them not having the room down the middle of the main street there. It would just go left to right. And I think that would add kinetics, at least to both of those lands, because neither of them really have great kinetics, to be honest. Then Indiana Jones needs some kind of flame work at the very least to make it feel like you're in a jungle that's inhabited by something. Because right now, again, it's just I don't want to say a cheap sign, but it's a very basic sign, and nothing really happening.
Let me get this straight. Walt Disney World has 2 Indiana Jones attractions?
No, they only have 1.
But don't they have a coaster that's called Indiana Jones?
Nope. They have a coaster in Paris.
Oh, okay. I thought it was in Walt Disney World.
Well, they're talking about adding Indiana Jones. They've hinted at it and very blatantly said they want to change the dinosaur ride into Indiana Jones over at Animal Kingdom because it's the same exact ride layout, at least. I've heard there's a spot where the one in Disneyland is a little bit taller than the one over in Florida, so they need to figure out the logistics there. But as far as just slapping on an Indiana Jones theme, it wouldn't be impossible. And if they do that, then what are they going to do with the Indiana Jones stunt show? No one really knows. Like I said at the beginning, Jim Korkis, 15, 16 years ago, was talking about how, maybe it was 9 years ago, I can't do math, guys, was talking about how they were going to change the whole land into Tatooine. So they can still change this into something completely separate from what it is. I know in my looking at it, like, again, not kinetics, but I was thinking if we just change this whole area into like the backlot of Disney's Hollywood Studios, you can have it where you change this 50s primetime diner into like an 80s primetime diner, put the facade of the Golden Girls up there, which used to be on the backlot of Disney's Hollywood Studios. So that way it would tie back into their own history. And you could do all kinds of stuff that would make sense over there, and you can make it all cohesive where the Indiana Jones stunt show could just be a general stunt show of, hey, this is movie making. But again, that's for a different conversation. That's for a different episode. And with that, Amanda, last but not least, unless you have anything else to add on to the wonderful Echo Lake over here.
No, I mean, Echo Lake is one of those. It's crazy how big the land actually is. I didn't realize how large it was until we sat down to talk about this project. And there is so much more you can do with it than what it currently is. I mean, I think having it be part of the backlot story is a great idea. You can intertwine different stories. You can have it be rotating. There's all kinds of different stuff that they can do. But yeah, definitely Gertie needs some animation. I think that is my biggest thing.
Make her move, definitely.
She needs to have a lot more. She needs to make sounds. She needs to be actively chewing. Her head needs to be on a swivel. She needs to move.
Because I've heard that like the original Gertie cartoon, like she would like kind of breathe smoke and stuff because we didn't really know what was going on. So I don't know if she does sometimes, and we just never have seen it or didn't notice it or just took it for granted.
Happen more.
But yeah,
we don't notice it's not happening enough.
Exactly.
Lou has a question. Demo the whole thing, right?
Yeah, that's
take the water, leave the water feature. Like, obviously, bring that back, but like turn the dinosaur around. So create like a little deck where you walk out, and Gertie's like in the middle of the water. Still the same way, looking at what it is. You're just going into her gut to buy ice cream. So like, what if you like turned it around, right? You walked in. You're on a little like bamboo dinosaur-like pier. She's like there in the middle, the same setup. But then you had like other smaller dinosaurs of the same species in the water to kind of like interact with each other. Where like they're almost like talking, making noises to each other, that like noises dinosaurs would do, and just create that into like a little dinosaur little pond. Or you just gut it. I mean, I don't understand. I feel like dinosaurs need a bigger appreciation in the park if you're going to do dinosaurs. Having one little long neck in the middle of your main street just seems kind of a cop-out. I mean, Hollywood Studio, I think we're going to have an episode where we just gut the whole thing. But I mean, if we're taking what it is and putting mild love in it, like, get rid of this. I'm assuming it's a Christmas tree. I mean, granted, this Google map shows Christmas time. But there's a little island. A
Christmas tree in the middle of the lake there. It's true.
Yeah, there's a little island. What if you like, then you got this like boat. Like, there's a lot of little room here. If you were to take that and like create like a little walkthrough where you're seeing dinosaurs in the water, stuff like that, it's a little patio area with chairs and some gazebos. Then you go inside Gertie which just sounds horrible. We're going inside a dinosaur to buy ice cream. It doesn't sound right at all.
Yeah,
but like, if you had that in the middle of the lake and like you're working your way to go get ice cream, and it's just like little just other animatronics in the water, and they don't even have to really move, but just like a simple, left, right, maybe like a little sound box in their throat to like make a noise. But like, she's just a lonely dinosaur out front of Indiana Jones and the Space Kitchen, it says, if I'm reading it right, or the 50s Primetime Cafe.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
The whole land doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's not like when you walk in to a lot of lands at a Disney park, you're like, I am here. I am in Galaxy's. I am now in Toy Story Land. I am now in, with Echo Park, it just is one of those of like, okay, now where am I? And the fact that you have so many different properties within it, you have some Star Wars, you got some Indiana Jones, you got, your 50s diner. Like, what is the story here?
Yeah, and our last episode we talked about readability, and it's not very readable.
Yeah,
it's like the junk drawer for Disney. Like, it's just got the catch-all. Like, you already murdered Mickey's face, which it took me a minute to find that. I was like, I don't understand. And I was like, kind of breaking the neck, and I was like, oh, I found it. Like, you can't have Mickey without 3 circles. You've already got rid of one, so just get rid of the other one. I mean, put Gertie somewhere else. Put her in Animal Kingdom. Take that entire building, preserve it, and transplant it over to Magic Kingdom. And that's a sad.
Where in Magic Kingdom would you put Gertie?
Sorry, not Magic Kingdom. Animal Kingdom.
Where in Animal Kingdom would you put Gertie?
Don't you have a whole Dino Land over there?
That's already on the chopping block. So
just get rid of the dinosaurs. Leave it at Universal Studios. They're doing it better anyway.
Send it to Universal Studios. Now we're talking. Yes. I like this.
Yeah, I mean,
put a bow on it and just like send it to the door.
Yeah, I still find it very weird that like Disney created a dinosaur where you go in the gut to eat ice cream. It just seems like bad storytelling. Like I
mean, the other part of the storytelling there is that the idea is that dinosaurs died during the Ice Age, because that was the thinking back in like a certain time period. I mean, it could still be true. It's still a theory about the asteroid, but like there was an ice age hit and killed the dinosaurs. That's the reason why she is themed to ice cream and Gertie together, because the ice age killed dinosaurs, which is morbid to begin with. Like, why are you gonna eat?
Yeah, we're gonna eat the shit that killed you. I mean, at the cost of that,
I mean, I don't think it was death by ice cream, but I mean that's something else. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm so glad you picked this topic, because this is.
It's a very. I think I volunteered this land for Sam, and then she chose a different land, and this came right back at me. So this is my fault.
No, it's not your fault. It's the Imagineers that decide it's their fault. You're just trying to help them. Yeah, I never thought I've always looked at Magic Kingdom and never Hollywood Studios on Google Maps, and man,
I love Hollywood Studios. I love all Disney parks. Don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand me. But that land is definitely confusing. I don't think it was until we started doing our packs that I realized it was actually its own assigned land. When I was like, oh hey, I took a picture over here. Where in the park is this? You know, I'm like, oh, it's part of Echo Lake for some reason.
You guys got a theater. You got a theater for Fantasmic. I mean, I like that.
Oh yeah, over on the Sunset Boulevard side, they do have a theater. It's nice over there too. It's kind of a long walk to it though.
So, mile-long walk.
It's a hike over to that theater.
Wow.
But once you're there, it's great.
And we don't own it, just to be clear.
Yes, we do not work for Disney. We are just fans.
We always forget to give this disclaimer. We should give it right at the top. Quick reminder to everybody: we do not work for Disney, and we don't pretend to, for legal reasons.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything
so Amanda,
anything else on Echo Lake before I go to mine?
Yeah, let's get some.
All right.
Something marvelous from you.
Oh, badoom boom. Okay, so my land is Avengers Campus at Disney California Adventure. Now, for those of you who have not been to this land, it is, as Lou described it earlier, a hallway. And there are buildings of brick, a lot of brick, and you're walking past one building and another building and another building, basically to get from the main pathway on the back of Grizzly Peak to Galaxy's Edge, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, essentially is what you're doing. It is a pathway. There is an attraction in Web Slingers. There's some gift shops. There's a couple of eateries in Pym Test Kitchen, and 2 shawarma carts. And there is a bathroom. So this used to be Bugs. It's tough to, or it used to be a Bugs Land, right? And so you had the theater of It's Tough to Be a Bug. You had all of these really cute things. Talk about kinetics. There was stuff everywhere for that land. The only part that is still existing in that area is the bathrooms. That is in the same exact spot, but pretty much everything else has changed. There is not a lot of kinetics happening in this land, especially during the day. At night, you have some flickering lights here and there, and they recently added a menu for Pym Test Kitchen on the outside that will make some like beep bloops sounds and have a scrolling menu. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of movement going on. And So the story behind the land is supposed to be that we as guests are checking out the latest innovation in training to become part of the Avengers team. But unless there is a show happening or we're waiting in line for a ride, I feel like we're not really part of the action. So I would love to see a gaming element theme throughout the land where you are actually on a mission that requires you to move around the park and do things. So this would be similar to like using your Magic Band or having the Disney app like you have in Galaxy's Edge, but it's more out in the open. Like where Galaxy's Edge, you're kind of like huddled next to a wall or like you're doing something by yourself on the app. This would be more interactive. Maybe some things would happen in windows, which there's not a lot of windows right now. So windows would be added. Or some displays around campus. So I'm envisioning like the latest Stark tech or Wakanda tech that's in these plexiglass cases throughout the land that when you complete your mission or something that they move or they light up or they make sounds or something that is like, ooh, what was that? Let me go check that out and want to be involved. There are spider bots, which you're fighting against in the Web Slingers game. There's spider bots on various buildings. Sometimes they make some sounds. Sometimes their eyes light up. They should actually be moving. I feel like there's some that are like stuck in some webbage, which doesn't make sense to me because they're spiders. That's what they do. Why are they trapped in one? But okay. But still some leg movement, some walking up a wall, some sort of movement there. And then at night, I was envisioning some sort of like spotlight with the Avengers A, like moving around the ground and up the walls and stuff, like just kind of bring the space to life. I mentioned the bathrooms. Above the bathroom, there is a yellow pipe that reads supercharged plasma. And I think it would be really cool to see if part of this pipe was like clear or almost like corroding away. And part of it has like some green ooze or some sort of liquid going through the pipe that would then glow at night. Just kind of be like this radioactive, like pulsating light that would kind of have some sort of energy to it. There's on several of the buildings, particularly above Web Slingers or Web Suppliers shop, there's some red and silver turbines. It looks like it should move, but I haven't seen it move. I think they should actually be rotating around and cause a sense of motion. The Quinjet is above a very large building in the middle of the land that serves no real purpose other than a new Avengers store and to house the back of the red car trolley. But there's a Quinjet that sits on top of it. And I think it should be like the Millennium Falcon. It should have steam. It should have sounds. It should have lights. It should not just be a static thing. It should be there for a purpose. Maybe occasionally a character appears inside of it, coming out of it. Make it more alive than it is. I love the fact that characters are roaming around the land. I don't think kinetics should be people. I don't think that should be your main thing. I think it's part of the theming. Again, going back to the trees. Trees are not planted for kinetics, and you can't say just because the wind moves, that's movement. It's part of the theming. You are telling the story by having the people walk around. The meet and greet is part of the attractions, right? So I think that they can still be there. That's still great. That's still part of the story that you are part of Avengers Campus, right? They should be there. But I think the way they get there should change. So I would like to see at several areas throughout the land a space where there's a big ordeal where a portal pops up, like how Avengers in game, with everybody popping out of a portal. big ring, a character appears. There's this sense of energy and movement with that. Then they can go do their meet and greet thing. That's how they enter. That's how they exit. You don't know where they're going. There's that sense of mystery of where'd you just come from? Where are you going? But it also ties in with the theming of the Avengers, and people are coming in and out, right? It's not just, I'm going to go backstage. It's, you appeared from a portal.
They actually have that illusion in the Doctor Strange show.
Yes, but I want that for the characters.
Well, he's a character.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's part of a show.
You want it more though somewhere else.
Like I want it in the land itself.
On a wall.
There's several places where they pop up, but yes.
Okay. So I just want to get this picture painted correctly. All right.
Yeah. You're on mute, Leo.
You could do that same effect in the Doctor Strange show. Right above the entrance to the store, there's that doorway. You could do that, or the doorway, the door they utilize for the red car trolley. Obviously, you can't use that, but there is that. But if they had that portal open up at the top of the building, so you can still hide the magic trick to make that work, because obviously it's not a portal in the Doctor Strange show, not to bust anyone's bubble, but the way they do it is really cool. I don't disagree there. I mean, the ship, it'd be cool if the ship came up. Like, if they built it to where it goes under, like, hey, they're not here right now. They're out doing something else. Oh, the ship's here. I think that portal idea can be really utilized in a lot of ways, and probably a lot easier than they think that they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, at the entrance of the land where you're coming from, Radiator Springs Racers, you have 2 doors on either side that are not being utilized. They're facade doors. You also have between that entrance and that Avengers supply store, there used to be Nick Fury's car. There's nothing there. It's just planter.
Might come back.
It might come back, but right now there's nothing there. And so it's just planter and concrete. There's no reason for that. Having some sort of something rather to have kinetics.
Especially if they put like a fire. I mean, I know it's probably not like warranted because you might get hurt, but they were like, I mean, obviously Spider-Man hangs a room from a wire upside down coming for his meet and greet. If you were to add some type of cool like winch or like a fireman pole on the side of Adventure Campus where like they hop on that and slide down it in a way, in a very safe manner, and you hook your foot into a latch and your hands are strapped so it looks like you're sliding, but you're not. I'm sure they could pull something like that. I mean, heck, the gymnastics people in the Pixar Play Parade used to wrap their hand in a bungee and fling themselves around the float. I'm sure you can come up with something that is still OSHA approved and storytelling approved to work with the kinetics of, because I agree. I mean, I think the characters play a part, but it's the entrance. It's how you got those characters there, going back to the Jolly Trolley. It's not that characters are the kinetics, but how you meet them, how you see them. Does it live up to the hype that you built for that? I think a lot of their superheroes come in very nonchalant, like, oh, it's my lunch break meet and greet. I'm here because
door opens and they walk through.
Yeah, like even if they just
on the catwalk,
even if they just came in where they were just blowing some stuff up, like, took care of them, and then boom, here I am. Like, no, like,
yeah.
I mean, I point out. Oh, just really fast that the Quinjet is supposed to be a weenie for the Quinjet ride that was supposed to be in that building, but they're still trying to figure out that whole King Thanos theme. So just in case anyone's listening, we're like, no, it's there for a reason. It's not just because it's supposed to like let you know that there's a ride in there where you're going to go on that ride vehicle, but it hasn't happened yet. We don't know if it ever will.
But I think that building right now, okay, I get they didn't follow the 5 P's of Imagineering, but that building, man, like that ruins the kinetics. When you look to the side, you're like, oh, it's just hard fault right there. Like there is no more building. Like it's like when you come in from Guardians, all that building pops. It punches you in the face. When you come in through the hallway, it's like, that's fake. Like super fake. Like it like Avengers Campus would pass more as like a Hollywood backlot tour than it would at a campus. But that's not what we're here talking about. But I think all your kinetics, they should really be listening in implementing some of those, because Avengers Hallway needs it.
And I have 2 more points too.
Wait, just to go back to the previous conversation about forced perspective and Avengers Campus, just to interrupt Amanda, apparently that's what I do. I wanted to point out that we were at the park and we noticed when the red car trolley goes into the big building there, like it felt like it was the wrong spot, because like we remember back before Avengers Campus was there, when it was just kind of a door next to the Tower of Terror, where like it wasn't this far away though. But then when you take a step back, it's forced perspective, making you feel like that building is far away when it's actually kind of touching the Tower of Terror building. It's like just feet away from it, because it feels like you've gone quite a distance because of that illusion that they've created there with that curved wall and magic. But anyway, back to kinetics with Amanda.
So true. Yeah, so I have 2 more points, and that is around the orb of Calistro. Did I pronounce that right?
Calastriano? I don't know.
Oh, the light and mirror thing? The warp?
Yeah.
The warp hole? Yes.
I believe it's magic.
Yeah. Anyway, the orb. We're going to call it the orb. So I have some thoughts about the orb and that photo op that's next to it. So, for those that don't know, it's this, it's light and mirrors, really, in this geosphere looking thing. And at night, it's really cool. It's really cool. It lights up. The lighting around it is really pretty. The lights actually are moving from one point to the other inside of this sphere. And it goes through these phases where it kind of sounds like it's spinning, but it's not spinning. But the lights kind of go a little crazy, and it happens periodically. Near that is a photo op that looks like you're going to go through a wormhole, and it has some of the books from the movie that were locked up in chains. So it just kind of goes with the story of Doctor Strange. So for the photo op, I really don't like that the photo op is there. Just period. I think it should be scrapped. I don't think it really makes sense in the theming of this. Like I get it, but then I don't. Like I think it's distracting. And I think a lot of people don't know it's there, but maybe because no one's in Avengers Campus anymore. At least in my experience. So, but if you are going to keep it, have some sort of sensors or something. So when people are taking their picture and making it look like they're going through the wormhole, there's actually something happening. There's some sounds, maybe flashing lights or something. The books are rattling in their chains. Like something is happening to sense danger, or like to make the feeling of danger of, oh no, I'm not, something. And not just like, okay, hold 2, 3. Okay, cool. You're done. And that's the entire point of that area, is for that photo op. So again, I think it should be scrapped completely. But if you're going to do something, have something moving like that. The orb itself, again, it's really pretty at night, but I would love if it was actually spinning. Some sort of movement either inside of it spinning, or the whole thing spin, like how Tomorrowland has that sphere that spins, the water ball, or something like that. But just having it move, I think would really pop, because you can see it as you're walking by. You know it's there, especially at night, but it doesn't actually move. It's a stagnant thing. So I would love to see it actually move. And those are my 2 points.
I think it should move. I don't ever venture into that little area at all. I think
there's no reason for you to.
There's none of that, and the Doctor Strange show, I think, is a big bust. I think there's a missed opportunity there for them to utilize more tools, but that's not for the kinetics of it. That's more of going down a Toontown path and reimagining it. But I think that should it's such a stale land. There's like no movement at all. And what is supposed to move, for instance, these spider bots, they don't, like, they're just they glitch out every once in a while, but it's so stiff.
Yeah.
It doesn't breathe at all.
Do you want to give some respect for the kinetics of that Spider-Man Stuntronic, though?
Yes.
That is the only thing that I'm like, thank God, because that being at the front of the land, too, was brilliant. And you can hear it from anywhere, which is a pro or a con, but you can hear it from a ways away, so you're drawn to it that way too. Like, wait, I hear Spider-Man. Where's Spider-Man at?
And shout out to Disney, but also a YouTuber that I follow named Bricky. Like the fact that animatronic is still going, because it's not cheap. That animatronic's not cheap at all. And you see that animatronic fly through the air a good amount of times during the day, and on weekdays. It's not like it's just a weekend thing. It's not like, oh, they used to do that, not anymore. Now he just comes out. No, the entire Spider-Man stunt show, so to say, is still happening today, even after having that malfunction a year or two ago. They built that knowing that might happen. And all of this is still going. Like, that is the way I expect most, if not all, superheroes to enter that land. And they're not. They're really not. And there was that right there is top-notch character meet and greet.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what was hard, because I did have that in mind. I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin, because I did have that in mind, but I'm like, how do you do that with Thor? How do you do that with Iron Man? You can't actually have him flying around. You can't have him coming from the sky. Like, how do you do that? And so that's why I was thinking the portal aspect of it makes sense, where you're literally just walking in and walking out, which is what they're doing anyway, but it's more in your face.
I think it might be jarring to see Thor come out of one of those portals kind of randomly, though.
But this is a different timeline altogether. I mean, Disney makes that clear. Like, this is from a different reality than the blip.
Yeah, we're not in the MCU over here.
Right.
I mean, Thor, you could simply, and just kind of answer the Thor and Iron Man. Thor, I mean, you could literally, you can, bring him in, like windows, like digital windows on that giant attraction building where it replicates like lightning looking. The building has like lightning, and then you hear them and then they shoot a beam of light up, and he would have to come in at night though, which would add some flavor to the night. You shoot a light up, like those projected lights, so it looks like it's coming down. You have the sounds of like the lightning and have it flash in the windows, and then where it takes place on the rooftop, kind of by the ship, and then he comes out mid-stage. Obviously, you can't go full effects because you have to sell a little bit, but if you have that sound, everyone looks up, and you just make it look like, boom, he just came, and then your eyes are up here, and all of a sudden he's now in front of you because he's already came down. You kind of have him come out all like jammed up and stuff like that. I think it'd be cool. I think Thor is a lot easier than Iron Man. Iron Man is a little harder because of the fact that Thor has a giant beam of lightning that transports him. So you can use that, and then boom, he's here. Iron Man, I think, is a little hard unless they were to have him like they built on the ship and had that like Jarvis system, but instead of taking him apart, you're building him as he's coming out and he's ready. And then you can use that, and then it's like he's here. He's like, you know what? I'm coming on down. And then boom, he works his way down. He's meet and greet. The same blueprint as Spider-Man, but have all the storytelling, the kinetics of it happen up above where we can't quite see the tools of the trade of how it's done, and they work their way down. Because when you saw Hulk come out of those two big doors, man, that was nasty. That was nasty. And then not only that, it's like, we don't want Hulk in that inflatable Baymax suit. Like, what? It was, and the hard part with Avenger Campus, though, is a lot of the characters come to us talking. That's a new element in character meet and greet, and the Hulk is a hard one to do. Me personally, I don't think they ever should have dabbled with the Hulk. I think that was a hard one until the tools are there. I mean, you could do something like Optimus Prime over at Universal Studios where they're still talking and it's not his mouth's not moving. I mean, that happens, but that's a hard one. I mean, Mickey does it at Disneyland all the time.
Right.
When he's chanting, "Are you ready?" But his mouth's not moving. I mean, the little ones believe it.
I'm going to go back to Universal there because with Mario, you have Mario, Peach, and Luigi. Their mouths move, their eyes blink, and they're talking to you.
Yeah.
So it is possible. I love what you said about Thor, though. And Phantasmic popped in my head of how Mickey is up at the top, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's down at ground level, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think they could totally do that, or even have like him at the top of the building with lightning like you described, and then at the stage where they usually have their, the Wakanda show or whatever with the Dora Milaje, Thor's there, but because everyone's looking up, they're not going to see this other Thor back here pop up, and then all of a sudden the light goes to him.
Yeah. And
then they're like, "Oh my gosh, Thor's right next to me."
Yeah. I mean, that, or you use Doctor Strange's show thing, and when there's no shows, that's how the characters are coming out. We know that's the portal to this zone, and they come through there. They just use that portal, and they come out right to that stage. It's not always a Doctor Strange show. True. I mean, they could do it that way. There's a lot they could do with bringing these characters in that I don't think they are utilizing.
Yep, I agree. No, I like that idea.
Add that with that gamification, and I'm there. That'd be great.
Yeah.
What?
The interactive game elements that she was talking about earlier. I love that idea. So
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
my first time hearing it. So yeah, it's a good one. It's something that they definitely could use there.
Something. Give us something.
Yeah, it needs some new flavor. But I think that wraps up this episode of Imagine That, where we talked about John Hench himself, talked about forced perspective and how that works and how sometimes it doesn't work, but also gave you a fun armchair Imagineering activity of us adding kinetics into Echo Park, Avengers Campus, and Toontown. But until next time, guys, we hope you enjoyed the show, but most of all, we hope you enjoy the view from Walt's apartment. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.